To speak is Miss Carter, who's 85 years old, and she's going to tell you her story.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for the prayer, Dolores. Thank you, because there's power in prayer. Amen. I was one of the unfortunate people that did not have a birth certificate. I worked all my life and I paid taxes. I've been residing in Virginia for over 30 years. I always had voters' rights because all I had was papers from my church that stated my age, my date of birth, my mother's name, and my father's name. It was always acceptable wherever I went. I never had any problems with state IDs. When I came here, I've even worked the polls. When I came, I got my state ID. And I voted. I worked hard, I paid taxes, and I voted. In 2001, the 9/11, my state ID that I had expired in 2006. When I went to have it renewed, they told me that they could not accept the credentials that I had. Even they were church documents, they would not accept it. The words they said to me at motor vehicle was, "You cannot prove that you were even born in the United States." They said, "You could even be a terrorist." That's what I was told at motor vehicle. I'm going to tell you what I told them. I said, if you don't help me, I might become a terrorist. My genealogist got my school records from Baltimore, which had my date of birth and all of that. We got all of that straight. I could not get that was not enough help. So she went to the 1940 census open, I think, April 1st, 2012. She said to me, she said, "What do you remember? Tell me everything you can remember about when you were 12 years old." I said, in 1940, I was 12. I lived at 710 North Gilmore Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21217. All right. I knew everyone's name in my house and my relation. My great aunt was my legal guardian. I said, Reverend Bessie L. Hall is my great aunt. She is married to Bishop Hall. I said, her daughter, Maybelle Henderson, is my second cousin. Her son-in-law, Frank Henderson, is her son-in-law. I had all that, and we had a boarder. Miss Dolly Smith, one of our church ladies, she stayed with us. And her father was 80 years old. He was a boarder. I had all the information. Sunday was April 1st. We went online on the 40 census that Monday. She said, by you having all that information, it helped me so much. And when it came back, everything, just like I said, was on the 40 census. All right now. She mailed all the information into the United States Department of Commerce, Economics, and Statistics Administration, the U.S. Census Bureau. We got a reply at May 24th, 2012 that said, the U.S. Census Bureau does not issue birth certificate, but this record can be accepted in place of one. June the 6th, I went to motor vehicle with this paper. I held it up when I went in there. I said, come on. I'm ready to take my picture. Give me my ID. And I got it. I got my state ID.
There are further issues dealing with voting rights, and here to speak on the restoration of rights legislation that's going through the Senate at this time is Senator Louise Lucas.
Thank you, Senator Locke, and I guess there's no question about what my sorority affiliation is. Yes, I am a Delta, and we have lots of Deltas here on the Capitol ground today. We are celebrating our 100th anniversary this month, and so Deltas are out and about all over the place, making sure we let our voices be heard. I was elected to the Senate in 1991, and I've been here 22 years, and I thought maybe sometime getting close to 30 years I'd be ready for retirement. But after the kind of legislation that's been going through here, I said, if Senator Kogan can stay here until he's 85. You all gonna look at me for another 20 years. More than 451,000 people who cannot vote in Virginia on account of being a convicted felon. That's 7.3% of the entire state's voting age population of 6.14 million. Wow. Last year we were here on voter suppression, and what we learned this year coming back to the session is if they can't win it, they rig it. Under current law, Virginia strips the right to vote from every convicted felon for life, with the state ranking 4th in the nation for the proportion of citizens who have had their voting rights revoked. Also under the rule, a felon's right to vote can be restored only with an application through the governor's office. A Virginia House of Delegates subcommittee killed off legislation to begin the process of amending the state's constitution to grant voting rights back to some convicted felons. Last week, however, a comparable Senate bill in the House of Delegates was killed off, and I guess maybe many of you had some, but we had a comparable bill in the Senate that came through with just a slightly different view. The Senate's Privileges and Elections Committee voted 10-5 to approve the bill, and on the floor of the Senate, the bill passed this week 30-10. Senator McEachin and Senator Peterson also introduced legislation to restore voting rights in the Senate. Their bills were rolled into my bill, and therefore they are the co-patron on the legislation that's going forward at this time, and they deserve credit for that. Now, if passed, this bill would be the first step in submitting a constitutional amendment to voters to allow for the automatic granting of the rights to vote for non-violent felons who have served their debt to society. We have come a long way in the process, my brothers and sisters, but our work is far from being over in this regard, because the measure must now go through the House of Delegates, which we call the killing field, where they've already killed off many versions of the bill. And if passed, the proposed constitutional amendment must be approved by 2 legislative sessions before being presented to the voters in a referendum. That means it would have to pass again in 2014 to go before the voters, even if it clears both chambers, the House and the Senate. So our work is not over. We need you now. Talk to the folks in the killing field and tell them to get on with passing this voting rights legislation, because if not now, when?
Now to talk about our brand new redistricting plan for the Senate of Virginia is Senator Donald McEachin, who is the chair of the Senate Democratic Caucus.
Good morning. And I need to first say thank you for being out here with us today. You are literally the wind underneath our wings, and we appreciate you more than you know. These are trying times in Virginia. You know, last year we were known, not just known, we were the epicenter for the war on women. Now we are the epicenter for the war on the Virginia voter. You've all heard about the redistricting bill. You heard how they took advantage of one of our members who just wanted to go see the president get inaugurated. And while he was gone, knowing that he was gone, ignoring the traditions of the Virginia Senate, which is if someone is going to be absent on an important bill, we pass it by for the day, knowing that they had control of all the committees, knowing that we had asked for a heads up before anything happened in the area of redistricting, they decided in the blink of an eye, or in the span of 40 minutes, to rewrite 40 districts, to limit debate, and to give no one a heads up, and just put maps out on our desk. And you know why they did it? They did it because they're concerned about black voters. That's what they said. That's what they said. They said, look here, we're going to give you a 6th Senate seat in the Virginia Senate. And we know you black folks are going to be happy about that. We know that you're going to be happy about the fact that we pushed some huge number of African American voters out of other districts. We're limiting your ability to influence other elections in other places? Well, never you mind that, because you got yourself a 6th Senate district, and you're supposed to be happy. Well, excuse me if we call that plantation politics. It makes no sense to limit the ability of African American voters to exercise their will in other districts like that. It can only be done for one purpose, and it is a nefarious purpose. It's to pack us into as few districts as possible and let us be. Well, this is the 21st century. There is no place for plantation politics. We need you to talk to the House of Delegates. We need you to talk to the governor of this Commonwealth. Let's remind folks that this is 2013, not 1813. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. This Commonwealth also continues to ignore the dictates of the Affordable Care Act. Here to speak on Medicaid expansion is Mr. Keenan Caldwell, who works for the American Cancer Society's Action Network.
Thank you. Very tough acts to follow. Thank you, Senator Locke. On behalf of our organization, I also stand with thousands of others in Virginia and many other coalition members, the Healthcare for All Virginians, that talk about support of the expansion of the Medicaid program, a critical piece of the Affordable Care Act. Let me give you why that is a double win for Virginia. The first win is that right now we have 1 million uninsured Virginians. 400,000 of them could get coverage if we expand Medicaid. This includes over 60,000 people between the ages of 50 and 64. These are mostly very hard-working but low-income adults who don't get insurance at their jobs. They can't afford insurance on their own, and they don't get the health services they need. They would qualify for basic coverage, including preventative care, services for chronic illness, and mental health. This saves the Commonwealth money in the long run. Let me give you another big win for Virginia if we expand Medicaid. Federal funding provides an enormous boost to Virginia's economy. The Affordable Care Act provides 100% federal funding for the Medicaid expansion for the next 3 years, and then federal funding is reduced to no less than 90% of the cost. Now, this means that billions of federal dollars will come into the state to support health care, jobs, and Virginia's overall economy. The official estimates show that over a 10-year period, Virginia would receive over $20 billion in federal funding while spending under $150 million in state funding. This is not a good deal for Virginia. This is a great deal for Virginia. All the experts agree that the federal funding will support more than 30,000 jobs, which will generate income taxes and sales taxes, helping to pay for Virginia's share of the expansion of the program. As a result of these offsets in jobs, the expansion basically pays for itself. So what happens if we don't expand? Virginia loses out. As I mentioned, over 400,000 very low income will remain uninsured. Most will be unable to qualify or afford private coverage through the Health Benefits Exchange program, leaving a huge gap in coverage. Hospitals that serve the uninsured will lose significant money due to these cuts. And if we don't expand, Virginia loses the economic benefit of $2 billion in federal spending and continues to pay for the uninsured, injured in care, and other health programs with state and local dollars instead of receiving that match. So Virginia's federal tax dollars, our tax dollars, will go to pay for other states, basically.
That's right. That's right.
So we ask you to join us and help talk to our elected officials and telling them to expand the Medicaid program, serve the uninsured, and provide health care for all Virginians. Thank you.
Our Commonwealth became the butt of many jokes on Saturday Night Live, on the Jon Stewart Daily Show. So because the decision was made that we know better than doctors what women need to do in terms of medical procedures. Well, here to speak on those issues is Senator Ralph Northam, who is also a physician and who had a piece of legislation yesterday that was kind of railroaded through in a meeting that nobody knew about.
Thank you, Mamie. Good morning to everybody, and thank you all so much for coming out on with whoever we have to thank for this weather. Thank you so much. What a beautiful day. But I want to give you two reasons why it is so important for you all to be here today to advocate for what you believe in. And the first is the all-out assault on women over the last 2 years. A group of legislators right up the hill from us chose last year, and by the way, they were mostly men. They decided that they knew what was better for a woman than the woman herself, and mandated that she must have this test against her will. They also told physicians that they needed to do tests against their better judgment. We need to tell these people enough is enough. The government does not need to be in the middle of the relationship between a patient and their doctor, and it needs to stop right now. I want to just back up what my friend Keenan said about the Medicaid expansion. As Mamie said, I am a physician. I'm a pediatrician. I have dedicated my life to taking care of our children. And if our children are going to succeed and prosper in today's society, there are two things that we need to give them. One is access to quality education, and the second is access to quality health care. And this Medicaid expansion that President Barack Obama has put as part of our Affordable Care Act is just that. It's to accept people who are most vulnerable, to give them access to a doctor, to give them access to health care, and there is no excuse for our governor to say no to President Obama. So it's important for you all to be here today, to advocate for women, to advocate for our kids, and I appreciate your help, and let's keep up the good work. Thank you so much, ma'am.
We have any number of people who are here in support of what it is that we're trying to do as a caucus and what all of you are trying to do as a community. Here from the Virginia People of Faith for Equality is its president, Dr. Robin Gorsland.
Thank you, Senator Locke. I am thrilled to be here today. I am Reverend Robin Gorsline, President of People of Faith for Equality in Virginia, and that's an organization, interfaith organization of clergy and lay people working for equality for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender folks, so that we all can share, the whole Commonwealth can share in the beautiful life we have here in this Commonwealth. And it is that desire that we all share in the benefits of living in this wonderful place that brings me here today. We're a nonpartisan group, so we sort of stay out of some of these controversies, but you know, our social fabric is being torn apart by this idea that the powers that are in charge, the one over there in the governor's mansion and some of those folks who think they run things up there, up the hill, they keep judging people. They look down on people, you know, they keep looking down, you know, and LGBT folks know what it's like to be second-class citizens. We applaud Senator McEachin, Senator Eben. They gave us an employment non-discrimination bill that passed the Senate. All members of the Virginia Legislative Black Caucus supported that bill, and we're glad for that. But you know, it won't probably get to the House of Delegates. I didn't know this. We had the land of no. This is a great thing, the killing field. They're going to kill it, and if they by any stretch God's grace got over them and it got to the governor, he'd probably veto it, because you see, old prejudices die very hard. And we'd still be, even if that passed, we'd still be denied the right to marry, and we'd be denied the right to adopt children. But so that's us. But you know, there's something else going on here. We've heard a little bit about it already. Ex-offenders can marry, all right, but they can't vote, and they have a hard time getting a job, and they can't. If they try to vote, they got to go through this demanding, demeaning process that we have here. So the governor was good to propose a bill, but his own party is not giving him the support. They want to keep the ancient machinery in place. Well, it's hard to know why they keep doing that, but it's something about prejudice, I do believe. They claim they want limited government, okay, but they persist in a heavy-handed, mean-spirited governance that denies their faith. They say they're a small government, but then they want to have it lay on top of all of us and make life very hard. And just last week, as Senator McEachin and others have said, they acted shamelessly in the light of day. Boy, they have no shame, I guess, to redraw the Senate district line so they can keep doing the same old thing. So a righteous people people. A righteous people call out, I believe, how long must we be stuck in the ways and mores of the 19th century? How long will this echo of Jim Crow live on? Requiring felons to beg for the right to vote, just as so many had to do when they sought to vote before the Voting Rights Act in 1965. We should have none of this going on after that was passed. And a righteous people cries out in an echo of Moses crying out to Pharaoh, let our people go. Get your hands off the bodies of our women. Let loving people marry. Let families be formed where there is affection and commitment and deep caring. Let those who have paid their debts for the wrongs they committed be restored to their full citizenship. Let old people and poor people, like Miss Carter, old people, and she's not all that much older than I am, but boy, oh, it's all right. She's a little older than me. Poor people and old people and students and all of us vote with ease and encouragement. We ought to be encouraging people to vote, not trying to make it hard for them to vote. Let our people go forth into the sunshine of society rather than get stuck in the dark places that some of those folks want us to stay. You know, God's a generous God. I'm a pastor. You might guess I'm a bit of a preacher too. And God is a generous God. God has blessed Virginia with great natural and human beauty all around us. Look at this. God's abundance is evident everywhere you turn, but our government here acts as if this abundance does not exist. Or perhaps these modern pharaohs think this abundance is a bad thing. They want to get it under control. Well, this must end. Our government must cease living as if grace and peace and love and hope and justice are in short supply. Because if this truly is a commonwealth, then let all share in the commonwealth. Amen.